Hi, I'm Eli, I'm an artist and I love POV sketching, and in this video I thought I'd show you some concepts that I usually use when drawing environments. I will cover some theoretical basics about perspective and how to draw in 1 and 5-point perspective. Those perspectives are perfect if you sit on a train and want to draw your environment, or basically anywhere where you look straight into something. So let's get right into it.
1-point perspective. As the name indicates, in 1-point perspective we have to consider one vanishing point. Let's start by placing our horizon line. The vanishing point is supposed to sit on the horizon line right at the center. You can think of this spot as the point you are directly looking at. Now let's draw a straight vertical line through the center, followed by multiple straight lines radiating outwards of the vanishing point. Those are lateral lines, and here is why. If we want to draw a box in this kind of perspective, one set of parallel lines of the box, the lateral lines, needs to follow our lateral lines of the grid. The horizontal and vertical lines of the box stay, at least in this kind of perspective, parallel to each other. To practice, draw a bunch of those grids and place boxes within them. As you can see, boxes above the horizon line are viewed from below, showing their bottom plane, whereas boxes below the horizon line show their top plane and are looked at from above. For boxes that go through the horizon line, we can neither see their top or bottom. 1-point perspective can be rather stiff and limited in describing a complex scene, but we can still use it in certain cases, so let's try and draw a random room in 1-point perspective. I've chosen a reference where we look straight at the center of that room. My line of view stands parallel to most of the lateral lines. With that point of view, this particular perspective grid provides a lot of guidance for my drawing, as most of the lines I see either vanish towards my central vanishing points, thus the point I'm looking at, or are simply straight horizontals or verticals. That being said, 1-point perspective is probably my least favorite grid, as it's technically not a very accurate description of reality. However, it's a good starting point to learn perspective, and we will use the knowledge here as a basis to create a more powerful perspective, such as 5-point perspective.
By the way, this is taken from my premium course. You can buy it on my website, link in the description, where I teach a lot more about POV sketching and perspective and all that stuff. If you want to check out the full course, the link is in the description.
5-point perspective. 5-point perspective is a direct evolution of 1-point perspective. I mentioned before that a 1-point perspective grid provides a lot of guidance to draw this particular point of view from the reference image. It turns out that this POV is also very suitable to draw within a 5-point perspective grid. What is changing compared to a 1-point perspective grid is that horizontal and vertical lines are no longer parallel, but rather get curved and directed to certain vanishing points. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, and let me explain the basics of the 5-point perspective grid. In that perspective, unsurprisingly, we deal with 5 vanishing points. Start with a horizon line and a vertical line. As with 1-point perspective, we get a vanishing point right at the center, hence the place we are directly looking at. Now 2 opposing vanishing points are placed on the vertical line, whereas 2 more points are placed on the horizon line. Now we draw curving lines connecting the outside vanishing points. One set for the vertical vanishing points and one set for the horizontal vanishing points. The more outwards they go, the more they curve, until eventually they form a full circle. Lastly, we draw straight lines through the center point, hence our lateral lines. Now we got ourselves a 5-point perspective grid. Again, let's practice with boxes. Remember that each set of parallel lines of a box, be it X, Y or Z lines, has to follow one set of the grid lines, be it horizontal, vertical or lateral lines. Now let's get back to our practical use case. I will draw the same point of view of the room we drew in 1-point perspective earlier, but now in 5-point perspective. As you can see right away, we technically got no more parallel lines. Horizontal, vertical and lateral lines all aim towards a certain vanishing point. The more outwards I draw from the central point of view, the more distorted the view gets. This attribute lets us capture a lot more of the scene while creating a more dynamic feel to it. Now granted, the distortion can get quite extreme and unrealistic on the outside areas, so if we don't want that kind of heavy fisheye look, we can simply choose to only draw within a certain boundary or frame of the grid. For instance, we want to draw a scene on the whole space of our sketchbook. The sketchbook then becomes our frame, whereas the perspective grid extends beyond our drawing surface, meaning that 4 of our vanishing points are somewhere besides or above the paper. This means that we have to imagine the location of the vanishing points as well as guessing the trajectory of the lines we draw. Remember, the further apart and outwards the vanishing points are, the less distorted we get and vice versa. Another way of making a fisheye grid look different is by making the distance of either the vertical or horizontal vanishing points smaller or wider. As I said, the more apart they are, the less distorted, hence less wide angle. So in this case, we can specifically choose to distort the image more vertically or horizontally. Now one more thing, what if we actually leave out the vanishing point at the top? What we get is a grid that seems more open towards the top. In practice, this can be interesting to do, especially when POV sketching, since it channels the focus more towards our own point of view and makes the scene appear more open and less restricted.
Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. If you want to check out the full course, the link is in the description. I appreciate if you subscribe to the channel and leave a like on this video. Have fun sketching and see you in the next one. Bye.